The war had been going on for 12 years. 12 long years of death, destruction, and suffering that stretched across the stars. Jinwoo stood at the window of Station Harmony, looking out at the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, his sister's ship had exploded 3 years ago. He could still remember the moment he heard the news. The pain never really went away. Behind him, Ambassador was arguing with the delegation. They were an insect-like race with bodies covered in beautiful crystalline shells that caught the light and turned it into rainbows. They could speak to each other with their minds, reading thoughts and feelings without words. To humans, they seemed cold and alien. To the humans seemed chaotic and dangerous. "We cannot continue this war," said, his voice tired. "Both our peoples are dying, we need peace." The Empress moved forward. Her crystalline body glowed with a soft blue light. When she spoke, her voice echoed in everyone's minds, not just their ears. "Peace requires trust. How can we trust a species that destroys so easily?" Jinwoo turned away from the window. "How can we trust a species that invaded our colonies first?" he asked quietly. The room fell silent. His antennae twitched. In culture, this meant she was thinking carefully. "There is an old way," she said finally. "A way our ancestors used when two hives needed to become one. A marriage bond between our peoples." Looked shocked. "You mean a political marriage between a human and a—" "Yes," the Empress said. "My daughter, Princess Ara, will marry a human of high rank. This bond will seal our treaty. If either side breaks the peace, both the husband and wife will pay with their lives. It is the old law." Jinwoo felt his heart sink. He knew what was coming before even turned to look at him. As the highest-ranking military officer present and a war hero, he was the obvious choice. He wanted to refuse. He wanted to run away. But when he closed his eyes, he saw his sister's face. He saw all the soldiers who had died under his command. He saw the burning colonies and the crying children. "I'll do it," he said simply. Princess Ara entered the chamber a moment later. She was smaller than her mother, but her crystalline shell shone with colors that shifted from green to gold. Her large, compound eyes were impossible to read. She looked at Jinwoo the way someone might look at a tool they needed to use but didn't particularly like. "I accept this duty for my people," Ara said, her mental voice cool and formal. "Let it be known that I do this for peace, not for love." "Same here," Jinwoo replied. At least they were honest with each other. The wedding ceremony happened 1 week later. It was a strange mixture of human and traditions. Jinwoo wore a formal military uniform. Ara wore bands of living crystal that wrapped around her body and glowed with inner light. Human priests spoke words about love and commitment that felt hollow. Elders performed a mind-touch ceremony where Jinwoo had to let Ara into his thoughts for just a moment. That brief touch terrified him. He felt her mind brush against his, cold and vast and utterly alien. She flinched away from him too, as if his thoughts had burned her. Whatever she had felt in his mind, she didn't like it. The treaty was signed immediately after the ceremony. Both species agreed to pull back their military forces. They would share technology and resources. Trade routes would open. And Jinwoo and Ara would live together as a symbol of this new peace. Their home was a diplomatic residence on Haven's Rest, a neutral planet that belonged to neither species. It was a beautiful place with purple skies and silver trees, but Jinwoo barely noticed. He and Ara moved through the house like ghosts, avoiding each other whenever possible. Ara took the east wing of the residence. Jinwoo took the west. They met only for formal dinners when diplomats visited. During these dinners, they sat across from each other and pretended to be a united couple. Ara's crystalline face never showed emotion, and Jinwoo had learned to keep his face blank from years of military service. At night, Jinwoo would sit on his balcony and look up at the stars. He wondered if the peace would last. He wondered if his sacrifice meant anything. Mostly, he wondered if he would spend the rest of his life married to someone who could barely stand to be in the same room with him. Ara had similar thoughts. She would stand in her meditation chamber, her mind reaching out to touch the thoughts of others across the stars. She told them that she was fine, that her duty was being fulfilled. But deep inside, where no one else could sense, she felt completely alone. They had evolved from a hive mind millions of years ago. Her ancestors had been part of a great collective consciousness where every thought was shared and no one was ever truly alone. But evolution had given the individuality. They had become separate beings with private thoughts. It was supposed to be progress, but sometimes Ara missed what her species had lost. Now she was married to a creature whose mind was completely closed to her. Humans couldn't speak telepathically. They locked their thoughts behind walls of bone and flesh. To Ara, it was like being married to silence itself. 1 month passed, then 2, then 3. Jinwoo and Ara maintained their cold distance. The peace held, but it was as fragile as glass. Military officers on both sides grumbled that the treaty was a mistake. Extremist groups on both human and worlds called for the war to begin again. And in the darkness between stars, something else was watching. Something that fed on war and chaos. Something that saw the fragile peace between humans and decided it was time to act. But Jinwoo and Ara didn't know this yet. They were too busy being strangers living under the same roof, neither one willing to take the first step toward something more than cold political necessity. The distance between them seemed impossible to cross. Neither of them knew that soon they would have no choice but to trust each other. Neither of them knew that war was coming again, and this time they would have to face it together or watch everything they had sacrificed for burn to ash. 6 months had passed since the wedding. Jinwoo had established a routine. Wake up early, exercise, eat breakfast alone, work on diplomatic reports, avoid Ara, sleep. It was a simple life and a lonely one, but he had survived worse during the war. Ara had her own routine. Meditation at dawn, communication with her people through telepathy, studying human culture from a safe distance, avoiding Jinwoo, trying not to feel the emptiness that seemed to grow larger every day. They spoke perhaps 10 words to each other per week, always formal and polite. Good morning. The diplomats will arrive at noon. Thank you. Nothing real, nothing that mattered. Then one afternoon, Jinwoo came home early and found Ara in the library. She was holding one of his books, a collection of ancient poetry from Earth. Her crystalline fingers were surprisingly gentle as they turned the pages. "I'm sorry," she said immediately, setting the book down. "I should have asked permission." "It's fine," Jinwoo said. "You can read whatever you want. This is your home, too." Ara's antennae twitched. "This poem," she said, pointing to the page. "It speaks of a soldier who plants a tree even though he knows he will die before it grows tall. Why would he do something he will never benefit from?" Jinwoo moved closer and looked at the poem. It was one of his favorites. "Because he wants the future to be better than the present," he explained, "even if he won't see it himself." "This is very human," Ara said softly. "Do not think this way. We carry the memories of our ancestors. We plant trees that our ancestors dreamed of. Everything we do is connected to the past." "And humans," Jinwoo said, "everything we do is connected to the future we hope for." It was the longest conversation they had ever had. When Ara left the library, Jinwoo noticed she took the poetry book with her. Something small shifted between them, like a door opening just a crack. The next week, Ara surprised Jinwoo by joining him for breakfast. She had prepared a dish, a kind of crystallized nutrient gel that glowed faintly. It looked strange, but when Jinwoo tried it, the taste was sweet and reminded him of honey. "Thank you," he said. "It's good." "You don't have to be polite," Ara said. "I know it looks unpleasant to humans." "No, really," Jinwoo insisted. "It's actually delicious." Ara's shell color shifted slightly, turning more golden. Jinwoo had learned this meant she was pleased, though she would never say so out loud. They began eating breakfast together after that. Small conversations happened. Jinwoo learned that Aura loved music, especially the sound of rain. Aura learned that Jinwoo had once wanted to be a teacher, not a soldier. The ice between them didn't melt, but it started to crack. Then came the night that changed everything. Jinwoo and Aura were attending a formal peace celebration in the capital city of Haven's Rest. Hundreds of humans and gathered together, celebrating 6 months of peace. There were speeches and music and food from both cultures. Jinwoo stood on a balcony, taking a break from the crowd. Aura found him there, also seeking quiet. "Too many minds in one place," she said. "It's overwhelming for telepaths." "Too much noise for me," Jinwoo admitted. "I prefer quiet." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the celebration below. Neither of them noticed the figures moving through the shadows. Neither of them saw the weapons being aimed. The attack came without warning. Plasma fire lit up the night. People screamed. Jinwoo's military training kicked in instantly. He saw the bolt of energy heading straight for Aura's head. He didn't think, he just moved. Jinwoo threw himself in front of Aura and the plasma bolt hit him in the chest. The pain was incredible, like being burned from the inside. He collapsed, smoke rising from his uniform. "Jinwoo!" Aura's mental scream echoed across the entire city. Every telepath within miles felt her panic. Security forces swarmed the area. The attackers were caught quickly, extremists from both species who wanted the peace to fail. But Jinwoo was dying. The plasma burn had gone deep, damaging his heart and lungs. "We need medical help now," Aura shouted, cradling Jinwoo's head in her crystalline hands. Human doctors rushed forward, but they were shaking their heads. The damage was too severe. Even with advanced technology, Jinwoo had minutes left. "No," Aura said, her voice was steel. "No, I won't let him die." She closed her eyes and placed her hands on Jinwoo's chest. Her body began to glow, brighter and brighter, until she shone like a star. This was the healing ritual, something sacred and intimate. It required the healer to share their own life energy with the dying person, connecting minds and bodies completely. It was dangerous. If she gave too much, they would both die. If she gave too little, Jinwoo would die alone. Aura didn't hesitate. Her mind crashed into Jinwoo's like a wave hitting rocks. Suddenly, they were inside each other's thoughts. Jinwoo saw Aura's memories, her childhood in the palace, her loneliness as she realized she was different from her ancestors, her fear of being sent to marry a stranger. He saw how she cried in private, something rarely did, when she thought about being trapped in a loveless marriage forever. Aura saw Jinwoo's memories too. She saw his sister's death, the explosion that had torn his heart apart. She saw his guilt over every soldier who had died under his command. She saw that he had volunteered to marry her not because he was told to, but because he genuinely wanted the killing to stop. She saw that underneath his cold exterior was a man who cared so deeply it hurt him. The healing took hours. When it was finally done, Jinwoo's wound had closed. His heart beat steadily. He would live, but both of them were changed by what they had seen in each other's minds. Jinwoo woke up in the medical center the next morning. Aura sat beside his bed. She looked exhausted, her crystalline shell dim and faded. "You saved my life," Jinwoo said quietly. "You saved mine first," Aura replied. "Why did you do that? If I had died, you would have been free from this marriage." Jinwoo sat up slowly. "Because despite everything, you didn't deserve to die, and maybe I didn't want to be free from you." Aura's shell color shifted through a dozen shades. "I saw your thoughts," she whispered. "I saw your pain. I saw that you're not the cold soldier I thought you were." "I saw yours too," Jinwoo said. "I saw that you're lonely, that you're scared, that you're nothing like the Ice Queen you pretend to be." They looked at each other, really looked, for the first time since the wedding. The walls between them had been torn down by the healing ritual. There was no going back to polite distance now. "I don't know how to do this," Aura admitted. "I don't know how to be married to someone real." "Neither do I," Jinwoo said. but maybe we can learn together." Ara reached out and took Jinwoo's hand. Her crystalline fingers were cool against his warm skin. It should have felt alien and strange, but somehow it felt right. "Together," she agreed. It wasn't love yet, but it was the beginning of something. A foundation built on honesty and sacrifice, and the knowledge that they had both been willing to die for each other. That was more than most marriages started with. 18 months after the wedding, Jinwoo and Ara had found a strange kind of happiness. They shared meals together now. They talked about everything from philosophy to their favorite foods. They even laughed together sometimes, though Ara's laugh was more like a musical chime in the mind than actual sound. Jinwoo had started teaching Ara about Earth history. Ara had started teaching Jinwoo basic telepathy exercises. He would never be able to speak mind to mind but he could learn to sense emotions and thoughts at the edges of his awareness. When Ara was happy, Jinwoo could feel warmth. When she was sad, he felt cold. They hadn't called it love yet. Both of them were too scared to use that word. But when Jinwoo woke up from nightmares about the war, Ara was there to hold his hand. When Ara felt overwhelmed by the loneliness that sometimes consumed her, Jinwoo would sit with her in silence until the feeling passed. Then everything changed. The emergency alert came in the middle of the night. Jinwoo's military communicator exploded with urgent messages. Ara sat up in her own room, sensing the panic of thousands of minds screaming across the stars. They met in the main hall, both already knowing something terrible had happened. 3 colonies, Jinwoo said, reading the reports with growing horror. 2 human, 1, all attacked simultaneously by something unknown. No survivors, no transmissions, just silence. "My people felt them die," Ara said, her voice shaking. "Every on those worlds, their minds just went dark, like candles being blown out." Within hours, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. Jinwoo and Ara rushed to Station Harmony, where diplomats from dozens of species gathered in fear and confusion. The evidence was clear and terrifying. A new alien force had emerged from the dark space between galaxies. They called themselves nothing, but the humans named them the Void Swarm. They were a parasitic hive mind, consuming everything in their path. They didn't want territory or resources. They wanted to absorb every living mind into their collective, erasing individuality and free will. Recordings from the attacks showed creatures that looked like shadows given form, moving in perfect synchronization. They could turn victims into mindless drones with a single touch. They spread like disease, and they seemed unstoppable. The Galactic Council descended into chaos. Some species wanted to flee to distant galaxies. Others wanted to try negotiating. The older, cynical races suggested surrendering immediately to avoid suffering. Jinwoo stood up, his voice cutting through the panic. "We fought each other for 12 years, he said. "Humans and killed each other over resources and pride. But now we face something that wants to destroy everything we are. Every thought, every dream, every choice. If we don't fight together, we'll all die separately." Ara joined him at the podium. "My husband speaks truth," she said, her mental voice reaching every mind in the chamber. "The Void Swarm sees no difference between human and, to them, we are all just food. We must unite or perish." Ambassador, now leading the human delegation, nodded grimly. "We propose a joint military force. Human ships with telepathic coordination. We share all our technology, all our secrets, all our strength." The military commander, a stern warrior named, made a sound like grinding crystals. "And who would command this fleet? The humans will want control. We will want control. The alliance will collapse into argument." "No," Jinwoo said. "I'll command the military operations. Ara will handle strategic coordination using telepathy. We'll work together just like our marriage. 2 species, 1 purpose." The vote was close, but it passed. The United Front was formed. Humanity and the Empire would fight side by side for the first time in history. But forming the alliance was easier than making it work. Human and soldiers didn't trust each other. They spoke different languages, followed different tactics, and had spent years being taught that the other side was the enemy. Jinwoo and Ara worked day and night to bridge the gap. They held joint training exercises. They made both species learn about each other's cultures. Slowly, very slowly, the soldiers started to see each other as allies instead of enemies. Then came the distress call that changed everything. "This is the human ship Morning Star," the transmission said, filled with static and screams. "We're under attack by the swarm. Our position is—" The transmission cut off. Jinwoo recognized the voice. It was me, his second-in-command from the war, his friend. She and her crew were trapped in swarm territory, their ship crippled and surrounded. "We have to rescue them," Jinwoo said immediately. The military council disagreed. "It's too dangerous," Admiral Yang said. He was a human who had never liked the peace treaty. "We'd lose more ships trying to save one. It's not worth the risk." "They're my people," Jinwoo said, his voice hard. "And going there could expose our fleet to swarm infection," added. "Though we'll not risk our ships for a suicide mission." Jinwoo stood up, ready to go alone if he had to. Then Ara's hand touched his shoulder. "I'll go with you," she said simply. The entire council turned to stare at her. "Princess, this is unwise," said. "You are too valuable to risk." "My husband's friend is dying," Ara said. "If I stay here safely while he goes into danger alone, what does that say about our marriage? What does that say about our alliance?" She looked around the room, her compound eyes reflecting the lights. "We keep saying we're united. Let's prove it." Jinwoo felt something warm bloom in his chest. He reached for Ara's hand and squeezed it gently. They took a small strike force, volunteers only. 20 human ships and 20 ships, crews who believed in the alliance enough to risk their lives for it. The jump to swarm territory took 6 hours. When they arrived, the scene was a nightmare. The Morning Star was surrounded by dozens of swarm ships, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light itself. The swarm creatures were already boarding, breaking through the hull. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they convert the entire crew," Jinwoo said, analyzing the situation. "Then we have 10 minutes to win," Ara replied. She closed her eyes and reached out with her telepathy, connecting with every pilot in the strike force. "Listen to me," her mental voice said. "Feel the humans beside you. They are not our enemies. Today, we fight as one." Jinwoo gave the orders. "Human ships attack pattern Delta. Draw their fire. Ships, use your energy weapons to create an opening. We're getting our people out." The battle was fierce and chaotic. Swarm ships moved with terrifying coordination, but so did the united front. Human pilots flew with daring maneuvers that made the gasp. Weapons cut through swarm armor that human weapons couldn't penetrate. Working together, they were stronger than either species alone. Jinwoo and Ara led the boarding party personally. They fought through corridors filled with swarm creatures, their partnership perfect. Jinwoo's tactical mind anticipated every attack. Ara's telepathy warned him of dangers he couldn't see. They moved like dancers, each one covering the other's weaknesses. They found me and the survivors barricaded in the engine room, fighting off the last wave of swarm creatures. When Mi saw Jinwoo and Ara fighting side by side, her eyes widened with hope. "I've got you," Jinwoo said, helping his old friend to her feet. "Let's go home." The evacuation was close. The Morning Star exploded just as the last shuttle cleared the blast radius, but every crew member survived. Humans and Had worked together and won. On the journey back, Mi approached Jinwoo and Ara. "Thank you," she said. "Both of you. I was wrong about the peace. I was wrong about I see it now." That night, alone in their quarters, Jinwoo and Ara sat together on the balcony. They watched the stars in comfortable silence. "I think I love you," Jinwoo said quietly. He had been holding those words inside for months, afraid to make them real. Ara's shell glowed with warm golden light. "I know I love you," she replied. "I've known for a while. I was just waiting for you to catch up." Jinwoo laughed, really laughed for the first time in years. He pulled Ara close and she rested her head against his shoulder. Her crystalline body was cool, but her presence was warm. They had started as strangers forced into marriage. They had become partners learning to trust. Now they were something more. They were proof that two different species, two different souls could become one. But their greatest test was still to come. The void swarm wasn't stopping. Every week brought news of more attacks, more colonies consumed, more minds absorbed into the collective. The united front was holding them back, but barely. For every battle won, two more began. Jinwoo had been made supreme commander of the entire Allied fleet. It was a position he never wanted, but the soldiers trusted him. Both human and warriors had seen him fight beside them, bleed with them, risk everything to save them. He had earned their loyalty. Ara stood beside him as his strategic advisor, but she was so much more than that. She had created a telepathic network connecting all the officers in the fleet, allowing them to coordinate with perfect precision. When Jinwoo gave orders, Ara made sure they were executed flawlessly across thousands of ships. Not everyone was happy with the new command structure. Admiral Yang, the human, thought Jinwoo was too soft on the general, the traditionalist, thought Ara was betraying her people by being so close to humans. They voiced their complaints during a war council meeting, 3 months after Jinwoo and Ara had confessed their love. "Our human ships are doing most of the fighting," Yang said, his face red with anger. "They hide behind their telepathy and let us die. Our telepaths are exhausted from coordinating your chaotic battle tactics," shot back. "Perhaps if humans could learn discipline, we wouldn't need to guide every movement." Jinwoo slammed his hand on the table. "Enough! We don't have time for this. The swarm doesn't care about our pride or our past. They're going to hit New Seoul next. Intelligence confirms it. 4 billion people live on that world. If we lose it, we lose the war." New Seoul was one of humanity's largest colony worlds, a beautiful planet with vast cities and agricultural zones that fed dozens of other colonies. It was also home to Jinwoo's parents and his remaining family. Losing New Seoul would break humanity's spirit. "We need a new strategy," Ara said, her mental voice calm despite the tension in the room. "The swarm's advantage is their hive mind. They move with perfect coordination because every drone is connected. We need to disrupt that connection." "Telepaths can interfere with hive minds," said slowly. "But the swarm's mind is too vast, too strong. One telepath would be overwhelmed in seconds." "What about 100 telepaths?" Jinwoo asked. "Or 1,000? If we create a telepathic network large enough, could it disrupt the swarm?" Ara's eyes widened. "In theory, yes, but the strain would be incredible. The telepath at the center of the network would have to channel the power of thousands of minds simultaneously. The mental pressure could kill them." "Then we find volunteers," Jinwoo said. "This is our best chance." "No," Ara said, and Jinwoo heard the determination in her voice. "I'll be the central node. I'll channel the network." The room erupted in argument. Insisted it was too dangerous for the princess. Yang said it proved they were willing to sacrifice their own for human colonies. Tried to find a diplomatic compromise. Jinwoo just looked at Ara. He could feel her emotions through the connection they shared. She was scared, terrified actually, but also determined. She had made her choice. "It has to be me," Ara said to him privately, mind to mind. "I'm strong enough to hold the network, and if I die doing this, at least it proves that our love was real, that the peace was worth it." "I can't lose you," Jinwoo said, his voice breaking. "Not now, not when I've just found you." "You taught me about that poem," Ara said softly. "About the soldier who plants a tree he'll never see grow. Let me be that soldier. Let me plan a future for both our species." Jinwoo wanted to argue, he wanted to forbid it, But he knew Ara was right. This was their best chance. Maybe their only chance. "We do it together," he said finally. "You create the network, I command the fleet. We save New Sol as a team." The Battle of New Sol began 3 days later. The swarm arrived with the largest force anyone had ever seen. Thousands of shadow ships, each one carrying millions of drone creatures. They descended on New Sol like a plague. The United Front met them in orbit. Human ships positioned themselves as bait, drawing swarm fire. Ships formed a protective ring around the flagship where Ara prepared her telepathic network. Jinwoo stood on the command deck, watching the battle unfold on dozens of screens. Beside him, Ara sat in a specially designed meditation chamber, her body already beginning to glow as she reached out to the telepaths across the fleet. "All ships, this is Commander Jinwoo," he said over the fleet-wide channel. "Today we fight for more than New Sol. We fight for the right to think our own thoughts, to love who we choose, to be free. Trust your allies, trust each other, and trust that we will win." Ara's voice echoed in the minds of every officer. "Join me, my people. Lend me your strength. Together we will be a light that drives back the darkness." One by one, telepaths across the fleet connected to Ara's mind. The network grew, expanding like a web of light across space. 100 telepaths, 500, 1,000, 2,000. Ara stood at the center, a living star channeling incredible psychic energy. The strain was immediate and overwhelming. Jinwoo could feel her pain through their bond. It was like her mind was being torn apart and rebuilt with every passing second. But she held on. Now, Ara's mental scream echoed across the entire battlefield. The telepathic network struck the swarm's hive mind like a hammer. For the first time since the war began, the swarm's perfect coordination broke. Drones stopped mid-movement, confused. Ships collided with each other. The hive mind was disrupted, its connection severed. "All ships attack now," Jinwoo ordered. "Hit them while they're disorganized." The United Front surged forward. Human pilots flew with impossible precision, guided by tactical telepaths who were now connected to Jinwoo's command structure through Ara's network. Warriors fought with human courage and determination. The battle raged for hours. Ara's body grew brighter and brighter, her crystalline shell radiating so much light that the entire flagship glowed. Jinwoo commanded the fleet with calm precision, but inside his heart was screaming. He could feel Ara dying. The network was burning her up from the inside. "Hold on," he whispered to her, knowing she could hear him. "Just a little longer." Finally, the tide turned. The swarm began to retreat, their ships limping away from New Sol. The colony was saved. 4 billion people would live to see another day. But when the battle ended and the telepathic network dissolved, Ara collapsed. Her glowing light went out all at once. She fell to the floor of her chamber, her crystalline body dim and cracked. "Medical team to the command deck now," Jinwoo shouted. He ran to Ara's side, cradling her in his arms. Her body was so light, as if the energy she had channeled had burned away her very substance. "Did we win?" Ara whispered, her mental voice barely a whisper. "Yes," Jinwoo said, tears running down his face. "We won, you saved them, you saved everyone." "Good," Ara said, her eyes closed. "That's good." "No, stay with me," Jinwoo begged. "Please, Ara, I love you, don't leave me." But Ara had already slipped into unconsciousness. The medical teams from both species worked frantically to save her. Human doctors stabilized her vital signs. Healers channeled their own life energy into her, trying to repair the damage. Jinwoo stayed by her side through it all, holding her hand, refusing to leave even when the admirals and generals needed orders. The fleet could wait. The war could wait. Nothing mattered except Ara. For 3 days she lay in a coma, balanced between life and death. Jinwoo barely slept. He talked to her constantly, telling her about the victory, about the lives she saved, about the future they would build together. On the 4th day, Ara's eyes opened. Her crystalline shell was still dim, her body weak, but she was alive. "Jinwoo," she said. He laughed and cried at the same time. "I'm here, I'm right here." "I had such strange dreams," Ara said slowly. "I dreamed I was connected to everyone, humans and others too, all thinking together but still individuals. It was beautiful." "Rest now," Jinwoo said, kissing her forehead gently. "We'll talk about dreams later." But Jinwoo had a feeling that Ara's dream was more than just a dream. It was a vision of what they could become, what they would become if they survived the war. 6 months passed after the Battle of New Seoul. Ara recovered slowly, but she was different now. The telepathic network had changed her in ways no one fully understood. She could still connect with other minds, but now she could also sense human emotions. Not read their thoughts exactly, but feel their feelings like distant music. Even stranger, some of the telepaths who had been part of the network reported the same change. They could feel humans now too. And a few human volunteers, those who had been closest to the network during the battle, reported sensing emotions at the edges of their awareness. "We created something new," Ara explained to Jinwoo one evening as they walked through the gardens of their home. "A bridge between species, not a hive mind where everyone thinks the same, but a connection where we can understand each other deeply while remaining ourselves." "Is that what you saw in your dream?" Jinwoo asked. "Yes," Ara said. "I think it's what we're meant to become, what the galaxy needs to survive." But surviving meant ending the war with the Void Swarm first. The victory at New Seoul had given the United Front new hope, but the Swarm was still out there, still consuming colonies, still growing stronger. Then intelligence made a breakthrough. A captured Swarm drone was studied by both human scientists and telepaths. They discovered that the entire swarm was controlled from a central source, a massive organic hidden in the dark nebula at the edge of known space. "It's like a queen bee," the lead scientist explained. "Destroy and the entire swarm will fall apart." The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to vote on the most important decision in galactic history. Would they authorize a final assault on the swarm? The debate was fierce. Some species wanted to wait and gather more strength. Others worried that attacking would only make the swarm angrier. A few suggested trying to negotiate, though everyone knew the swarm didn't negotiate. Jinwoo stood before the council, now a legend across multiple species for his victories. "We've been running for too long," he said. "Every day we wait, more people die, more minds are consumed. If we have a chance to end this war, we have to take it." Ara stood beside him, her crystalline body still bearing faint cracks from the Battle of New Seoul. "I've touched the swarm's mind," she said. "There is no mercy there, no understanding. They will never stop. The only way to save the galaxy is to destroy them completely." The vote passed. The final assault was approved. Preparations took 3 months. The United Front gathered the largest fleet in galactic history. Human ships from every colony, warships from across the Empire. Even other species who had stayed neutral until now sent forces to join the fight. Jinwoo was given supreme command. Ara was appointed as the coordinator of the expanded telepathic network. This time, they wouldn't just connect telepaths. They would create a network that included volunteers from multiple species, anyone who had developed even the smallest telepathic sensitivity. "Are you sure you're strong enough for this?" Jinwoo asked Ara the night before the assault. He held her close, afraid this might be the last time. "I'm stronger than I was," Ara said, "but I won't be able to do it alone. The network will be too vast, too complex." "Then we'll find a way to share the burden," Jinwoo said. Ara looked at him, her compound eyes reflecting the starlight. "There might be a way," she said slowly. "Experimental technology they have been developing. It could allow a non-telepath to join the network fully, but it's dangerous. It could damage your mind permanently." I trust you, Jinwoo said simply. If you need me in the network, then that's where I'll be. The journey to the Dark Nebula took 2 weeks. The combined fleet traveled together, thousands of ships from dozens of species. Along the way, Jinwoo walked through the fleet, visiting different ships, talking to the crews. He ate with human soldiers and warriors. He learned the names of pilots from species he had never heard of before the war. One young human pilot, barely 20 years old, asked him, "Commander, are you scared?" Jinwoo thought about lying, about saying something brave and inspiring, but he chose honesty instead. "Terrified," he admitted. "But being scared just means we understand what we're fighting for. Our fear reminds us that life is precious." When they reached the Dark Nebula, the swarm was waiting. There was visible even from a distance, a massive organic structure the size of a small moon. It pulsed with dark energy, and around it swarmed millions of drone ships. "All ships battle stations," Jinwoo ordered. "Today we end this war." Aura sat in the central command chamber, surrounded by the telepaths who would form the network. Jinwoo sat beside her, connected to the experimental technology that would let him join the network despite being human. "Are you ready?" Aura asked him, mind to mind. "With you always," Jinwoo replied. Aura activated the network. Instantly, thousands of minds connected, telepaths from dozens of species all joining together. The mental energy was incredible, like a star being born inside consciousness itself. Aura stood at the center, channeling and directing the power. But this time, she wasn't alone. Jinwoo joined the network fully, his human mind adding something new to the collective. Where telepaths provided coordination and connection, Jinwoo's mind provided human intuition and adaptability. Together, they created something that had never existed before, a true fusion of human and consciousness. "I can feel everyone," Jinwoo said in wonder. "Not just humans too, and others. We're all connected but still ourselves." "This is what we're meant to be," Aura said. "Not a hive mind, not individuals alone, but something in between, connected yet free." The battle began. The swarm attacked with everything they had, throwing waves of drones at the united front. But the Allied fleet moved with unprecedented coordination. Every ship, every pilot, every gunner was connected through the network. They fought as one organism, yet each individual retained their own creativity and courage. Human pilots made daring maneuvers that minds instantly understood and supported. Energy weapons fired with timing coordinated by human tactical thinking. Other species added their own unique strengths to the network, creating a symphony of cooperation. But the swarm was learning. Its hive mind recognized the threat of the telepathic network and focused all its psychic power on destroying it. The mental assault was devastating, like a tsunami of darkness crashing against Aura and Jinwoo's minds. "I can't hold it alone," Aura gasped. "It's too strong." Jinwoo felt her pain through their connection. He could feel the swarm trying to tear their minds apart, trying to disconnect the network and leave everyone confused and vulnerable. "Then we don't hold it alone," Jinwoo said. "We share the burden with everyone." He opened himself completely to the network, and Aura did the same. Instead of trying to control and direct the network from the center, they became part of it. Every telepath, every volunteer, every connected mind took on an equal share of the burden. The network transformed. It was no longer a pyramid with Jinwoo and Aura at the top. It became a web where every mind supported every other mind. When one person weakened, 100 others lent their strength. When someone faltered, their comrades caught them. Together, they were unbreakable. The combined fleet pushed forward, fighting through the swarm's defenses. Human marines and warriors boarded fighting side by side through its organic corridors. Engineers from a dozen species worked together to plant explosive charges at the core. Jinwoo and Aura guided them all, not as commanders giving orders, but as partners sharing information and support. They had become something beyond human, or they were the living bridge between all species, proof that unity was possible. The final charge was planted. All forces retreat to minimum safe distance, Jinwoo ordered. The fleet pulled back. The seemed to sense what was coming. Its psychic scream echoed across the network, a howl of rage and fear. Then the charges detonated. They exploded in a burst of light visible across the entire nebula. The swarm's hive mind shattered instantly. Every drone ship went dark. Every swarm creature collapsed. Without their central consciousness, they were nothing but empty shells. The war was over. The fleet erupted in celebration. Humans cheered, sang mind songs of victory. Other species celebrated in their own ways. Through the network, Jinwoo and Ara felt every emotion, every joy, every relief. But they also felt something else. The network wasn't dissolving. Even with the immediate danger past, the connections remained. Thousands of minds from dozens of species, all linked together not by force but by choice. "What do we do now?" someone asked through the network. Jinwoo and Ara looked at each other and smiled. "We build," they said together. "We build a galaxy where everyone is connected but free, where every species keeps its identity but shares understanding, where we're stronger together than we ever were apart." 5 years later, Jinwoo and Ara stood on a balcony overlooking the new Galactic Union headquarters. They had retired from military service, but their work was far from over. They served as ambassadors, teachers, and guides for the new connected galaxy. The telepathic bridges had spread across dozens of species. Not everyone chose to join them, and that was okay. The connections were always voluntary, always based on mutual respect and understanding. But those who did join found something precious, a sense of belonging that crossed all boundaries. Jinwoo and Ara had a daughter now, a beautiful child named Mira who had both human features and crystalline patches on her skin. She was the first human hybrid, impossible by the old science but made possible by the changes the telepathic network had created in both species. Mira played in the garden below with children from a dozen different species. They laughed together, played together, and when they were old enough, they would join the network together. A new generation growing up without the hatred and fear that had defined their parents' time. "Do you remember what you asked me?" Ara said to Jinwoo. "That day in the library when I was reading your poetry. You asked why the soldier would plant a tree he'd never see grow tall," Jinwoo said, remembering. "I understand now," Ara said. "We planted a tree together, and look how beautifully it's grown." Jinwoo pulled Ara close. "You married me for peace," he said, "but in war you shone like a star." "We both did," Ara corrected. "We shone together, and will keep shining as long as the galaxy needs us." They watched their daughter play, watched the children of former enemies becoming friends. The war was over. The peace would take work, constant effort and vigilance. But it was possible now. They had proven it was possible. Humanity's greatest strength had never been technology or weapons. It was the ability to inspire others, to show different species that cooperation was better than conflict. Jinwoo and Ara had become symbols of that strength, proof that love could bridge any gap, that understanding could overcome any difference. The stars above them shone bright and beautiful, and somewhere among those stars, new colonies were being built, new friendships were forming, and the future they had fought for was becoming real, one day at a time.